Coming up on Weed Talk News this week, cannabis prohibition days are numbered, and the beginning of the end is just a few weeks away. Sales from Canada's legal weed market moves past the illegal market just over 2 years into their federal legalization plan. And a health insurance plan that covers medicinal marijuana? Really? All that and more on Weed Talk News next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News. I'm Jimmy Young.
And I'm Rye Russell from Weed Buds Radio.
Every week, Rye and I get together to talk about the news stories of the week, and it's been a busy one. Hey, Rye, have you noticed that every time we share a video or a blog or a podcast and the word legalization and cannabis is in the title, it attracts a lot of attention?
You're right, and it looks like that might just happen.
I don't know about legalization, but let's say the Democrats will be trying to make good on their campaign platform to at least decriminalize cannabis. New York Senator Chuck Schumer is now the majority leader in the Senate. He and New Jersey's Cory Booker will be introducing legislation in the coming weeks to establish a taxed and regulated cannabis market. Now, it will probably be tied to a social justice initiative reflecting on the fact that U.S. prisons are filled with persons of color who have been convicted of small possession crimes. However, now that the politicians in Washington, D.C. are involved, anything can happen, right, Rye?
Oh, Jimmy, don't get me started on the politicians. Let's turn to business. There was a major sale of an alcohol delivery company from Boston called Drizzly, a San Francisco-based company. Uber Technologies has announced they've acquired Drizzly for $1.1 billion. Now, what does this have to do with cannabis, one might ask?
I know.
Jimmy, what is it?
It has to do with their sister company, Lantern.
Bingo! Lantern is a subsidiary of Drizzly, or was, and their model is to deliver cannabis. Lantern was not part of the sale. However, Uber Technology said they are not interested in cannabis delivery right now. But that sentiment could change. Lantern was launched last year and is operating in Massachusetts and Michigan. Lantern is now the first in the Denver, Colorado market to get a delivery go-ahead because they connect retailers with consumers online. Despite Colorado's mature cannabis market, they are just now introducing delivery options, and Lantern is ready to deliver that option. Speaking of options, there were quite a few acquisitions on the world cannabis stage. Here's Deborah Borchardt for the Green Market Report. Deborah?
Thanks, guys. The big acquisition announced this week was Jazz Pharmaceuticals' purchase of GW Pharmaceuticals in a deal valued at $7.2 billion. Jazz is a global biopharmaceutical company whose focus is in neuroscience, including sleep and movement disorders, and in oncology. Everybody knows GW Pharmaceuticals for its epilepsy drug Epidiolex, which is made from cannabinoids. The Scott's Miracle-Gro company reported that it had company-wide sales that increased 105% to a record $748.6 million in its fiscal first quarter. The company said it was primarily driven by strong retailer support in the U.S. consumer segment, as well as continued momentum in Hawthorne. Hawthorne's sales increased 71% to $309.4 million, and it was driven by strong demand in all categories of indoor growing equipment and supplies. Ianthus stock popped over 57% this week after the company was able to close on an $11 million bridge financing. Now, the company has had several decisions turn in its favor lately. The Monmouth County Superior Court in New Jersey decided to allow Ianthus to continue construction at the Pleasantville, New Jersey facility, despite its ongoing legal battle with MPX New Jersey. And that's the big news this week. I'm Deborah Borchardt from the Green Market Report for Weed Talk News.
We've got some great news coming from many different states here in the cannabis industry, and we will start, of course, with my home state of Maine, where state regulators say the current medical marijuana rules are out of sync with the state law and must be aligned. Last month, the Maine Office of Marijuana Policy released a draft of regulations designed to even the playing field between the state's medical and adult use program, which began this past October. But a coalition, Jimmy, of hundreds of caregivers who grow medicine in their homes for sick patients are fighting the proposed restrictions they claim are too costly and restrictive.
Okay. All right. That's
The
cool.
draft rules, Jimmy,
Yes.
they would require approval from municipalities to operate, and they would require caregivers to use the state's inventory tracking system that's already up and running for the adult use market. And they would need to install extensive 24-hour video surveillance system in and outside their businesses. So the coalition is saying that these are unnecessary and unreasonable expenses. Interesting here in Maine. I feel like these two markets are always going back and forth, Jimmy.
Well, the caregivers and the medical dispensary owners, they're kind of catering to the same clientele, aren't they?
They are. And you know what? This is not the only state we're seeing struggles. Montana and South Dakota are still fighting for conversations that they've already voted on. In Arizona, at least this is a state that's moving fast. They have launched their recreational program a little early. This is crazy, Jimmy. It's all over the board.
Yeah. And even the established markets, a market that's been around a while and continues to drive billions of dollars of sales legally and illegally, is California. They have thousands of dispensaries throughout that state for medical and adult use. And imagine if one day you happen to be one of those licensees, you log into your email and you get a notice from the state that your license has been revoked. Well, that's what happened this week, not to just one or two, but over 300 licensees were sent a notice that their license had been revoked. Now, sure enough, it turns out that it was an automated email blast that was tied to a form that was sent out on January 11th. And in that email, it asked the licensee to send further information to the Bureau of Cannabis Control. Now, within a few hours, the BCC had renewed those licenses, fixed the auto respond on the emails. Oops.
If you want to know a reason why it takes states so long to launch cannabis programs, might have something to do with the communication between people who are trying to open businesses, the courts, and the various departments at every state level. In New Jersey, while they continue to move towards opening their adult use market, an old court case on medicinal licenses has stalled the expansion of that program in the state. It seems that there might have been improper applications filed in 2019. The state eliminated 51 applicants in 2019, and some applicants feel like their cases were handled poorly. So what does the state do? They put the whole process on hold, leaving 146 applicants in limbo. There are tossed to now just 12 open medical dispensaries in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey is looked at as the next big market in cannabis to develop, and yet I don't have a lot of confidence in the state government there. Then again, I don't have a lot of confidence in any state government, but that's another story. Over the past few years, the movement to unionize employees has turned bitter here in Massachusetts. And over the past week, the U.S. Labor Relations Board handed out a decision brought by two Pennsylvania workers at a dispensary there who were trimming and cultivating cannabis. Now, basically saying the NLRB is basically saying that they can't unionize. That decision states that growers and trimmers, sorters and packagers are not agricultural workers, but are employees. Now, amazingly, the NLRB reached different conclusions in similar cases in 2013 and 2015. And the NLRB also says workers are okay to unionize. So it's just the processors who are being excluded. Now look for this to be coming to the Supreme Court near you at some point in the next few years. In the meantime, it's time for the DC Report with Vote Pro Podcast, Phil Adams. Phil?
Hi, folks. This is Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast, here with the Weed Talk News DC Report. Isabel Guzman, Joe Biden's nominee to head up the Small Business Administration, offered the Senate committee no promises that the SBA would ensure equal treatment for cannabis businesses. In a meeting of the Senate Committee on Small Businesses and Entrepreneurship, Guzman did say that the agency would look into the problem. Current SBA policy excludes legally operating cannabis companies from access to the same programs and resources available to small businesses in virtually every other industry. These include loans, counseling, COVID and other disaster relief, as well as mentoring and training. Many of Biden's nominations to key posts, including Guzman's, are being closely watched by cannabis industry advocates to see what his picks may signal about his administration's approach to cannabis policy. One member of Congress says he plans to try and include banking protections for cannabis businesses in the next COVID relief package. Democratic Congressman Ed Perlmutter of Colorado wants to add language from the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act to protect banks that serve the cannabis industry. In 2019, Perlmutter sponsored the SAFE Banking Act as a standalone bill. The measure passed the House with bipartisan support, but received no Senate consideration. It also advanced twice last year as part of the Democrats' COVID bills, though neither version cleared the Senate. Perlmutter said he would reintroduce the SAFE Banking Act as a standalone bill if this latest attempt falls short. More progress toward adult use in Virginia this week as cannabis legalization bills have advanced out of two key committees of the Virginia General Assembly. The Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee passed its version of the bill, while a similar version cleared the Appropriations Committee in the House of Delegates. This comes less than 1 month after Virginia Governor Ralph Northam introduced his adult use legislation proposal. These actions clear the way for full Senate and House floor votes. A recent Christopher Newport University poll shows a significant majority of residents of the Commonwealth, including most Republicans, now favor legalization. That's the Weed Talk News DC report for this week. I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Pot.
So, are you looking for a job in cannabis? You might want to tune into the Green Rush Live show on Pro Cannabis Media on Friday, February 5th from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. David Rabinovitz and I will be talking with Max Simon, the founder of Green Flower, and also with David Belsky, the CEO of Flower Hire. We also have a representative from Johnson and Wales University in Rhode Island to talk about their new curriculum. So there is a leader in cannabis education, a leader in the recruitment for that industry, and many options to look at when it comes to the business of higher level education in cannabis. And of course, if you don't want to watch it live, it's recorded and available on the PCM social media platforms, right?
Well, Jimmy, cannabis employment company Vankst released a report with some encouraging news that more women and minorities are entering the industry. However, we do see that wages for entry-level jobs are only slightly higher than those of entry-level fast food positions. Vankst also predicts that we will see an increase of over 26,000 new jobs by the year 2025. So now let's head to Solomon Israel, who is back from assignment with MJ Biz Daily International for our Canadian report.
I'm Solomon Israel from Marijuana Business Daily International, and this is the Weed Talk News Canadian Cannabis Report. For the first time ever, Canadian sales of legal recreational cannabis have exceeded illicit sales. That's according to new estimates from Statistics Canada, the federal data agency. Spending on recreational cannabis hit 824 million Canadian dollars in the third quarter of 2020, but sales of illegal recreational cannabis were estimated at $754 million in the same period. And marijuana producer TerraSend Canada has recalled more than 330,000 units of THC-infused gummies. A recall notice from Health Canada said the affected products may contain mold. TerraSend Canada told Marijuana Business Daily it issued the recall proactively after receiving complaints from consumers. It's the second mold-related cannabis recall in Canada so far this year. You can read those stories and more at mjbizdaily.com. I'm Solomon Israel for Marijuana Business Daily.
Okay, here's a story that caught my eye, and it's really interesting. Did you know that there is finally a health insurance company that is offering coverage for medical cannabis? Sure enough, it's called Novus. They are introducing a med plan to cover cannabis this year in conjunction with wholesale carrier Elevate Wellness. Novus's plan is approved in all 50 states and will transition to a user-based insurance plan. Something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
What are you keeping an eye on, Ryan?
Well, Jimmy, as you know, I will be keeping an eye on the Super Bowl this year and this Sunday, but I'll also be in the clubhouse. So,
What's
Jimmy,
the Clubhouse, right? Tell us about Clubhouse.
well, Clubhouse is a fun new app that is controlled just by your audio. So you get to go around this new application, networking and meeting people from all across the world that have been invited to this platform. It's only available on iOS platforms right now. But what's really exciting is it has allowed for conversations to take place anywhere, much like Zoom, but audio only. And some cannabis professionals have gotten a little creative. And my shameless plug here, Jimmy, I've been working hard with Antonio Harvey, Melissa Stapley, and Sherry Tarr, amazing cannabis industry professionals. And it got a little out of control. Antonio and I made a bet. I knew Tom Brady, he is at home in Tampa Bay and at the Super Bowl. But
That's
we
never
decided,
happened. You know, that's never happened before. Just in
well,
case you haven't heard that.
and you would know, Jimmy, because we have a kicker that we're going to tell you about in just a second. But this event has been all possible due to Curaleaf here in Maine. So they stepped up. They provided a $1,000 donation to Athletes for Care, which is an organization that is advocating for athletes' access and right to control their wellness and recovery regimens. So something that the leagues have been very strict on. And so some amazing personalities will be joining us. We'll be raising funds for this great occasion. And there'll be celebrities and athletes from all over that will be joining us to help broadcast during the Super Bowl live. The cannabis industry's never been able to participate on a stage like this before. And one last kicker, we have a special guest, one of the most legendary sportscasters I have ever met, joining us at halftime for analysis of the first half of the game. Jimmy, who could that be?
I'll be in the clubhouse with Rye and his friends at halftime of the big game on Sunday. And I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's really interesting. So you're going to be in the clubhouse talking to a cannabis group of people, pro-cannabis group of people, while watching the Super Bowl with them, right? That's what the clubhouse is about, right?
That's it. We will all be watching the game taking place in conversation. We're going to have some incredible athletes that will share their professional journeys and why they chose to get involved with an organization like Athletes for Care. Because I saw a great opportunity the other day where a veteran of the NBA was mentoring the son of an ex-NBA player who's just getting ready to enter the league. So people from all walks of life will be here and attending this event.
Who was that? Do I have to put you on the spot?
You will absolutely have to put me on the spot, but Antonio Harvey will be anchoring our team this year.
Okay, fair enough. And I'll know who it is by the time halftime runs around for Super Bowl, and I'll be in that clubhouse. I can't wait to figure out how it works on my iPhone. Anyway, one final note, a very special happy birthday to our video director, Dan French, who is celebrating a birthday today, but not to be outdone because Rye Russell's birthday was just about 24 hours ago from this taping. So a happy birthday to both of you. As far as Dan goes, needless to say, he's one of the most important people on our staff here at PCM because he controls all of our audio and video content. Basically, if he really wanted to, he could cut my microphone right now. But then
we love Dan. He's the best.
He wouldn't be the video director if he did that. So don't do that. And I can't believe you're only 22. That'll do it for another edition of Weed Talk News. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm Rye Russell from Weed Buds Radio.
Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And go Tampa.
The Super Bowl.
Go Tampa.
Go Tampa. TB, Tom Brady. Antonio, we're watching you.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first. Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.